Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Brian Norton with MyEtherWallet for There's No Such Thing as Pro Crypto, and That's a Good Thing.
Sorry, one moment. And there we are. All right. Thank you, everyone. My name is Brian Norton. I am the COO of MyEtherWallet. I have been in that role since 2018. And since I've given a good number of years of my life to this space, one would probably assume that I would qualify myself as being pro-crypto. But as you can probably tell from the title of this talk, there's no such thing as pro-crypto, and that's a good thing too. My job for the next 10 to 13 minutes or so will be to convince you that there's no such thing. And so I'm not pro-crypto, and neither are you. So let's get started. So I brought up my title a couple seconds ago, and it's pretty snappy, and I wish I could take credit for it, but I ripped it off. I ripped it off from a gentleman named Stanley Fish. He is a 86-year-old cultural critic, literary scholar, and popular philosopher. He was also the dean of the College of Arts and Humanity when I was at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and you can look that up if you want. When he was a 56-year-old literary theorist, back in 1994, he wrote an essay and then a book entitled There's No Such Thing as Free Speech, and That's a Good Thing Too. I mostly like the title, but as it turns out, it was a critique of the culture wars that were beginning to brew up in the United States around 1990, like in the early 90s during the Clinton era. And what was interesting about it is he really dug into like the sort of like politicization of certain terms that you would probably know now as like politically correct or merit-based, things that were sort of popularized within the culture war in order to sort of put down other positions and make them seem unreasonable by making an appeal to a more neutral authority, which is what you want. So Fish argues that these terms serve primarily as window dressing for a particular value set, and being presented as neutral appeals to rationality, which is the ideal in public discourse. So in revisiting this 30-year-old work of critical theory, I was struck by two things. Just how effective this weaponization has been over the last 3 decades, and how we're seeing the same sort of weaponization of terms within political discourse in the crypto space. And that politicization is beginning to spill out into the normie world. So what are we saying when we say something is pro-crypto? Well, late last year when I was in Bangkok, I kept hearing this refrain after the election. Well, now that the US is pro-crypto, the US is crypto-friendly now. And I kept saying, kept hearing this and nodding my head, being like, I don't know what these people mean. Nothing has fundamentally changed at this point. But as it turns out, when we say something is pro-crypto, we typically mean anything that is outside of this space that we, as an industry, deem as being beneficial. That's politicians, regulations, institutions. People inside of crypto are just seen as crypto-friendly by default, and we don't really question where their loyalties lie. We have an assumption of a political alignment. But the point is whatever the world makes for a more accommodating place for the crypto industry, that's what we consider pro-crypto. But wait, which crypto are we talking about here? So in this past presidential election, crypto lobbyists spent about $133 million after raising $197 million in support of allegedly pro-crypto candidates. And it worked. Crypto lobbies everywhere they put their money, they won. They got Sherrod Brown out in Ohio, and it worked all the way up into the White House. And they won by a pretty big margin. But who is the crypto lobby? What crypto is pro-crypto? Is it Circles? Is it Pudgy Penguins? Is it MyEtherWallet? I wish I had that kind of money. But no, of course not. It's the folks, it's the usual suspects. It's the Coinbases of the world. It's the Andreessen Horowitzes. Ripple was in for $45 million. And this isn't an indictment. Many of these people in this space are doing good projects. I have a great working relationship with Coinbase myself, and I plan to have some for many, many years to come. But it would be really, really naive of me to assume that my little non-custodial solution, like with its scrappy team of 20, has a perfectly aligned is perfectly aligned politically with a company that has, I think, 54 billion market cap. Like, we're probably going to diverge on a couple of points. And so what I'm trying to point out here is that just like Big Pharma, just like Big Ag, pro-crypto lobby, it ain't you. It ain't me. It's somebody, it is much, much bigger, powerful, more entrenched players. Peter Thiel was also heavily in. Peter Thiel famously declared, crypto is libertarian. But what if that's not what your crypto is doing? Maybe that libertarian values are not the values that you are putting into your crypto product. That's not the cultural values that you want to see reflected back to you in the blockchain space. Are you then anti-crypto? Are you? So the way Stanley Fish would talk about this as, so it's pure, so it was pro-crypto, it's just not your crypto. In his dissection of the term free speech, Stanley Fish claimed that free speech is, in a partisan debate, is meant to appeal to rationality. But there's no such, like, when speech diverges, we say something, when we say something is free speech, we're usually defending it against something else. Like, you're wrong because you're wrong, I'm right, my speech is right, and thus free speech. And this is a way by which we can put a bulwark between ourselves, between our speech and somebody else's. It's not that we can't say whatever we want, it's that there are cultural values at play, political cultural values at play all the time when we're interacting socially, and we just that just becomes part of the expectation. He also said, and this sums it up nicely. If one yells free speech in a crowded courtroom and makes it stick, the case is over. Now, if you replace free speech with pro-crypto and courtroom with on X, well, you're basically all caught up. That's where we are right now. That's where we are in the crypto dialogue, political dialogue right now. And you might say, so what? So speech is political. Entrenched interests are going to pay to see their influence and their interests reflected back to them in Washington. It doesn't really mean that much. We can just put our heads down and keep building what we want to build. Well, fair enough. But in the run-up to 2024 U.S. election, Vitalik published a blog arguing against the choosing of political allegiance solely what he deemed as pro-crypto. He made the argument that even if one was to limit the definition of pro-crypto to the cypherpunk values that created crypto, the bills that were being sort of touted as pro-crypto from organizations like Stand With Crypto, who are a generous backer of this conference, and they do good work. But he said that what these bills were doing were woefully underdeveloped for protecting other types of freedom, other types of technology rights. And what he said basically, and this basically sums it up, freedom is important. Decentralized networks are good at protecting freedom, and money is an important sphere where such networks can be applied. But it's one important sphere amongst several. This seems like a very reasonable, measured position. And to their credit, many on crypto Twitter gave a measured and reasonable responses. But there were other responses, and they were less measured and they were less reasonable. And this is kind of what what was hit back with. And we're still hearing this play out now. It's sort of the before and after. Now, I don't know about you, I survived the Marxist infiltration of ETHDenver this year. I think and it looks like to me, just looking out in the crowd, that everybody else fared okay as well. So, the idea that we should create a a credibly neutral network by casting out our political rivals, people whose value sets don't come up with them, smearing them. It's a novel take. It's a novel take. But in a way, this is perhaps even more egregious appropriation of a conceptual level is this idea of credible neutrality for partisan political ends. Because whether it's a sincere assertion, like trolling or just nihilistic edgelordliness, it serves the rhetorical function of just delegitimizing large swaths of engagement with crypto for their ideological underpinnings. But it does go much closer to the foundation because we're doing this on like the community level. We're doing it on the protocol level. This is not big business trying to infiltrate the government. This is peers talking to peers, trying to drive other builders out. And I don't know if we can build a credibly neutral global system. On the subject of neutrality, Stanley Fish said, no such thing as free, non-ideologically constrained speech. No such thing as a public forum purged of ideological pressures or exclusions. But I'm daring to say that I think that we still have the opportunity to do something quite noble, which is to create this credibly neutral global system where anybody, absolutely anybody, in any sort of value set from any other part of the world can be reflected by Ethereum and other crypto projects. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter, rather than excluding different ideologies and value sets, use cases diverse as universal basic income, collective resource allocation, DeFi, and even Wild West meme casinos can compete on the value they provide to actual human beings and not be gatekept by lobbyists, regulators, politicians, ideologues, or even edgelords on Twitter. So there might not be such thing as pro-crypto, but that's a good thing. Because once we get out of the pro-crypto box, we can let our imaginations run wild, and we can go and dream bigger and build better. Thank you very much.